All right, so in today's version of news that's really not news, we're going to report on what WCCF Tech is reporting, which I guess I should be talking about because I got a bunch of emails this morning going, Jay, did you see this article from WCCF Tech and how they're not going to be, MSI and Asus aren't going to be making new motherboards for Intel anymore? And it's like, can you be any more obvious that all you did was read the headline and you didn't actually read the article? There was no point in reading the article either because literally this isn't news. But I'm going to tell you why it's not news today. Okay, forgive me here while I surf through the sea of ad herpes all over WCCF Tech's articles. Jesus Christ. I don't have ad block installed. I feel like I'd be a hypocrite if I did, but brands like this make me feel like I need it. Anyway, moving on. They say not all major motherboard vendors are interested in releasing a new motherboard lineup for the Arrow Lake refresh. That is like the biggest duh statement I've ever seen because of the fact that okay. When we reported on Core Ultra 200S Plus, it was very widely advertised by Intel that this CPU will work entirely without issue on any current 800 series motherboard from Intel, or that's Asus, MSI, Gigabyte, doesn't matter what brand it is, right? It's intended to work with all features, even though it's more cores and whatnot, on all current chipsets. The only thing you may potentially need is a BIOS update, which is not uncommon or unheard of when a new CPU launches. I think the confusion here about this is people are reading the headline, which simply says MSI won't be producing new motherboards for Arrow Lake refresh. Asus to follow same path. People just read headlines and they don't read articles, and then they just completely regurgitate the headline and make up whatever shit they want when they report on a story. And by report, I mean like when people are posting this, and even people are emailing me saying, hey Jay, did you see that MSI and Asus are dropping Intel? Like, it has been misconstrued from the point of not coming out with new motherboards specifically designed with Core 200S Plus intentions, all the way to, hey, did you see that MSI and Asus are dropping Intel? Like, these are the types of emails I've gotten about this. And it's just this is why articles like this just do nothing but a disservice. So it says MSI expected to focus on DDR4 motherboards as it plans to skip motherboards for Arrow Lake refresh alongside Asus. Even that, I feel like, is a high level, too open to interpretation statement. In fact, ASRock is even looking at trying to make motherboards that have DDR4 and DDR5 slots on the same motherboard. Because up till right now, if you were running a platform that utilized both DDR4 and DDR5, which is only Intel, by the way, 13th gen, 14th gen, I think 12th gen as well. Anyway, don't quote me on that. You had to choose. Were you getting a D4 board or a D5 board? And that's usually what the number, the designator would be in the motherboard name is D4 or D5. Because those CPUs, the IMC on that CPU or the internal memory controller or integrated memory controller could work with DDR4 and DDR5. The problem was you had to make the choice. And then later, if you wanted to update to DDR5, let's say theoretically before NAND prices went through the roof, you would have had to have bought an entire new motherboard to get DDR5. So now, because people are trying to survive this RAM-pocalypse, if you will, they're having to kind of get creative. So you're seeing motherboard manufacturers now, MSI, I think being one of them, looking at ways to now integrate both into the same motherboard, which I think is great. I thought that's the way it should have been from day one, but I guess it took some extreme circumstances for motherboard engineers to really look into making that happen. I don't know what the cost of the board would look like, but because there's some hardware engineering challenges there regarding the amplifier and whatnot that's on the motherboard that has to connect the signal. It's going to be a signaling challenge, but I think they've obviously got this figured out by now. But the issue here is when a CPU launches that currently works on all motherboards that exist currently for that platform generation, why should motherboard manufacturers make a new motherboard for that? I don't feel like they should. That's kind of been a problem this whole time. And we've talked about this before. Motherboards can be ridiculously expensive for no real reason or even a tangible performance benefit. More often than not, it's just got more shinies on it, maybe a better looking material, maybe it's got some screens, and it can cost a literal arm and a leg. Although I guess right now compared to RAM costs, the motherboard would be a heck of a lot cheaper, even if you went with the most expensive. The article talking about not coming out with new models would be just an obvious cash grab for motherboard manufacturers to try and capitalize on a new CPU that doesn't need a new motherboard. Right now on Newegg, there are 16 Intel Z890 motherboards. Now that's not including B650 or any of the lower chips. The article's talking Z890, so I'm talking Z890. There are currently 16 models of motherboard on supporting a platform that you guys know consumers are not actively running out and buying in droves. Like, people are buying AMD. That has been the case for a while now. So for there even to be 16 motherboards on a platform that you know is not selling as fast as AMD is, why would you make more? It's like, this article is the biggest duh statement. It doesn't need a new motherboard, so why would you make another motherboard? Now, it's pretty obvious that AMD is selling because there are currently 24 X870 and X870E models combined, because remember, the E versus non-E, there's still a high-end board. There's 24 of those models, right? So obviously there's 8 more models than there are Intel. Ooh, groundbreaking. Anyway, the point is, you don't even need all of those models for AMD either, because the article goes on to say this exact quote: as far as Asus is concerned, GFF Events revealed that Asus seems uninterested in launching newer Z890 motherboards for Arrow Lake refresh as well. Basically, both Asus and MSI think the existing models are adequate for the new Core Ultra 200S Plus CPUs, which is true. Even if they plan to release newer boards for better memory optimization, it wouldn't make that much sense due to DDR5 RAM shortage. That's why I said, like, articles like this are they're just fillers, like fluff, which I guess you could say is about this video. But this video is less about the news, because it's not the news. It's more or less about me ranting about WCCF tech, which I've done for 14 years now, and I will never stop. They also, now here's the thing. The article takes a really weird turn where they say Colorful. Now, a lot of people don't even know Colorful makes motherboards. They do. They make motherboards. People have known about Colorful and iGame making GPUs for a while now, but motherboards are not something a lot of people were even that aware of. And I don't think they make Intel boards. I know they make AMD boards because they contacted me about reviewing one. But it says Colorful 2 appears to be interested in reintroducing its DDR3 motherboards, as DDR4 memories are witnessing a sharp price hike. Now, at first I thought they were saying they were going to re-release their DDR3 motherboards as DDR4. Like, they're going to take a DDR3 design and just plop DDR4 in there and somehow make it work. But that's not how that works engineering-wise. It says, as reported by Channelgate via video cards. Once I saw the video cards name there, I knew exactly that this was just a fluff article that is not true. But Colorful is expected to launch a D3 series in early May, as the company has been impacted by the DRAM shortages immensely. If I'm wrong, I'm fine with that, but my biggest question would be why? First of all, I had to go through hell to find DDR3 that would work on my DDR3 motherboards that I got for our retro gaming series. If you thought DDR4 and DDR5 was hard to find, I'm not convinced consumers are going to go running out to eBay and Craigslist or electronics recyclers or whatever to buy DDR3 to build old, outdated systems that are far below any games, any games requirements in the last 15 years. Like, I cannot imagine that happening. Like, it's crazy. Okay, yes, I know DDR4 is not even 15 years old. I'm being a little dramatic at this point, but how many of you are gonna run out to go buy yourself like an Ivy Bridge system? 3770K to build a motherboard or to build a system using Colorful's new DDR3 boards? Like, what sense does this make? It's not like the NAND manufacturers are going to suddenly flip DDR3 manufacturing back on. That tooling's been torn down a decade ago at least. I don't understand that. Like, they had me on board with like, okay, brands are being creative to try and survive. This is a survival game now, right now. It's not about whether or not things are going to go back to normal. Things are going to normalize. There's a big difference between normalizing and going back to normal. Things are never going back to the way they were before the AI boom or even pre-COVID. That's never happening. But there's going to be a new normal. And what that looks like right now, we don't know. But I cannot for the life of me actually imagine a brand trying to come out with a DDR3 board thinking that's the answer. Because if you want to talk about truly throwing away money, that's it right there. Anyway, I made this video because I woke up to some emails today saying, did you see this article? And again, it was as stupid as MSI and Asus are dropping Intel. They're not. Okay, it's just Intel is not the majority brand right now that people are buying. Obviously, people are building AMD rigs more so. I think the last quote I heard was something like, at Micro Center, I'll ask the salesman here and they're like, hey, how often? I like to ask them, like, how often do you like grab parts for customers that are asking for Intel versus AMD or NVIDIA versus AMD? And this is like the same every single time. Customers are getting like 7 or 8 NVIDIA graphics cards for every AMD. And the reason for that, honestly, is 9070 XT's price jumped back up to nearly $1,000 for many of the mainstream brands. Have just made the price of performance there not worth it. So people went back to NVIDIA. And they're like 5 or 6 AMD CPUs for every one Intel. Obviously, bean counters at these companies know that. And by at these companies, I mean like the motherboard manufacturers. So they're not going to dump money into manufacturing new models of something that's not selling. They manufacture new models of stuff that's selling because of FOMO and all these other reasons why people would want to build a new system. And then they can be like, hey, look, I got the newest board. And then you go on Reddit and you start shit talking each other because your board's older than the other guy's boards. And it's just a stupid min-max game people like to play, which is unfortunate because everything that exists right now would be fine. We only need like 5 motherboard models. We used to only have like 4 or 5 motherboard models per CPU generation. You had like your entry level, your mid level, and your high end, and then maybe your HPDT, high performance desktop. Like that was it. This era of 24 models existing for a current platform is ridiculous. Anyway, this article just pissed me off, honestly. I'm installing AdBlock now. And I'll whitelist everybody except video cards and WCCF Tech because I'm mad that they just got a few cents off of me by even doing this video. All right, guys, thanks for watching. I don't even feel like this was a video worth doing, but again, people ask. I'm gonna go start building that crazy water-cooled system with the 4 radiators soon here. So those parts arrive. So we'll get to some fun shit here soon. All right, guys, thanks for watching.